Hello, everybody. Welcome to the All American Otaku Show. Today's subject is Isekai. And what is Isekai? In the Japanese meaning of Isekai, it says in another world. There's also reverse Isekai, where someone from another world comes to our world. Both are very common, more so regular Isekai. Isekai has become so common that people are cosplaying as the truck that sends people into the other world or reincarnated as something. Some reincarnation attempts are funny, like in Konosuba, the guy rescues a girl and realized he didn't need a rescuer at all. It was a tractor, and the tractor stopped before she would have gotten hit, and he ends up dying of a heart attack, asking for a girl, asking for if he's going to another world, if he could take the goddess with him. When the goddess is, some people say, is useless, but has ultimate magical powers, but not always that bright. But I'm going to talk about one of my favorite isekais, Inuyasha. Inuyasha stars this one girl named Kagome. Lives in our modern world, goes to school, has crushes, goes to eat, and ends up going down the well and waking up into feudalistic Japan, where she meets the half-demon Inuyasha, who's also after the Shikan jewel. They have various adventures. Eventually they meet a fox demon named Chippo. They meet a perverted lecherous monk. They meet a demon slayer. And they also have other rivalries, such as Naraku, who's trying to take over the world, who's also a half-demon, and wants a Shikan jewel for himself. You have Soshomaru, Inuyasha's brother, who's a full demon, but does not necessarily like half-demons or humans all that much until he meets this girl named Rin, who he raises and becomes part of his side. Inuyasha, great anime, great story. Another isekai is Konosuba. As I mentioned before, he is about a guy who gets killed of a heart attack trying to rescue a girl from a tractor, realizes it was nothing, and ends up in sort of a quasi fantasy world where he meets Aqua, he meets Megumi, meets Darkness. Each of them are powerful in their own right. Like Megumi uses explosion, very powerful spell, but she gets knocked out afterwards. Darkness can hit with a sword, but loves to be taken hits and loves to be very durable. She's sort of a masochist. Then you have the main character who's sort of a perv, who's sort of just going through the emotions, like he would use steel to steal girls' panties and so forth. This is a fairly funny anime, and it's clearly an isekai. Another popular isekai is Rise of the Shield Hero. This anime has this guy reading a book about the Shield Hero, the Sword Hero, and the Spear Hero, and he ends up into this fantasy world to try to defeat this upcoming cataclysms that would release sort of a demon king or whatnot. He ends up getting ridiculed, accused of rape when he didn't do it, as well as various other things. People looked down on him, looked at him as he was trash because he happens to be more of a defensive hero than an attack hero like the other two, or the other three, if you count the arrow hero. He meets this girl that was a slave. He buys her, trains her to become a hero, and they eventually become good allies and work with each other to defeat monsters and defeat various cataclysms and save people, as well as fix of the other heroes' mistakes who think it's just nothing but a game. Great anime. It has roughly 2 seasons. I highly recommend it to watch that. Then you have isekais that fall into way too much, like The Time I Reincarnated as a Vending Machine, or The Time, or A Porn Star from Another World, or various others. the isekai market is very popular right now, so it's a lot of various moving parts and a lot of different ideas. This anime is really good, but there's a lot of it. The trick is finding the isekai that really portrays you and which one you rather go for. Isekai, for every 2 anime that came out, there's like 20 isekai. I'm maybe over exaggerating a little, but there's a lot of isekai that come out. So much so, a lot of the fantasy market that was just purely fantasy is taken over by the isekai market.
Isekai, which means from another world. It can mean anything from reincarnation or reverse isekai, which means that they were from a fantasy and were put into modern days. This one I'm doing is called Tanya the Evil. Now, just by the mere word of evil, yeah, this character's not the most stable person. And as far as the protagonist goes, it's pretty much an anti-hero or even a villain in this kind of story, which is really unique in this. Tying the Evil is about, well, let's go with the reincarnation part of him. He was this salary man that was very, very stubborn, and he had followed the rules to the letter. So when he got this one guy fired him because of his negligence so many times, the guy got a little pissed with him, and basically, as they were waiting at a train, the guy, grew a pair and pushed him into the train. You think that'd be the end of it, but being isekai, reincarnation in this regard. Basically, he gets interrupted just before he gets hit by Train Kun, because, Kun with most things getting hit. Anyways, there's this godlike entity telling him that, maybe if you treated them better, everything be fine. The guy being total atheist, like saying, well, what is this godlike entity? I don't need to pray for all this stuff. And the guys are like, the god entity keeps talking to them, trying to get them to, maybe if you had another chance, we would get you to do this. Actually pray to God. And he's like, nah, not gonna happen. Well, let's just try to prove you wrong. So he gets put into a world where it's magic mixed in with, let's say, the Great War. If any of you guys know what that means, it's World War I. So being a godlike entity is put him to the test of being the most harsh environment ever. He's like, actually, this is kind of gender better because he becomes this little girl that has like huge magical ability, and them looking for candidates to employ in the military, they test people out for magic capability. And Tanya is on the #1 list of most magic, so she gets inducted into the military, and she gets really pissed about it, but decides to make the do with it. During the whole point of the series, she actually ends up becoming higher rank, and she wants to get away from the front lines as possible, so she trying to become an officer, and actually makes him even more of a target to be pulled into it. The story is that he gets this device during one of his tests that he has to make an incantation to use the magic. I pray to God, just to have to do this, because otherwise the magic doesn't work and he falls. Oh yeah, flying is incorporated into this. Falls to death. The one point of the series that I really like about this is that, like I said, it's unique. It's a really villainous character. This person believes in corporal punishment, so every time her main people fall out of line, she will do what she can to get them punished or get whipped, or even the training is really brutal. Like, you can't use magic. You gotta walk through all the snow, and I got artillery pieces that may have live rounds, and there you go. There's a lot more going on as far as story is like progression is like four different types of scenarios come up. So I recommend this one just because really unique on